Good afternoon, everybody. I see a handful or two handful of people come in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I'm Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, CEO of Triad Leadership Solutions. And what it is a company that focuses on leadership development for the full cycle of the leader. So we come in when you have your new leaders in your company, and we basically step them through the whole cycle until you get them in the executive suite, if you're that lucky to retain someone for that long. But today I'm going to be covering tools for transitioning vets. Now, I will caveat this right off the bat. I'm going to take you through my journey. So this is not a standard brief about tools. We'll get you that at the end of the brief. But I want you to be very clear on one thing when it comes to transition. And a lot of topics have been already covered today. Some of those I'll hit very briefly. But your transition is that. It is yours. There is no one else on the face of this earth that will go through the same transition as you. We are individuals, we're unique, and everything comes into play when we talk about transition. So now, as I'm talking about transition, I'm going to take you through my journey, and I'm going to transition into sharing my slides here. So be patient there with me. All right, so tools for transitioning vets. Like I said, I'm Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, and we'll be covering this topic today from my perspective. Now, I mentioned earlier, transition is a singular thing. There's no one's transition the same ever. But what we can do is we can mitigate the bumps and bruises that come along with transitioning. And anybody that has already been through this road can tell you that there are some. I myself started, retired 26 years, Navy, senior enlisted leader on the weather side. And, it was not my desire to go into weather. So I was already thinking that it's going to be a totally different thing for me. And it was, except that I didn't know that it was going to be so different. Never in my life have I switched jobs as much as I have in the last 6 years. Since I retired in December 2015, I have had 6 jobs. And believe it or not, it has been brutal. Not because I cannot do the job, but because the environment, the landscape is totally different. The demands of each company are totally different. When a company runs out of money and you're in a good position where they just kind of made it for you, guess who goes first? So I first want to start with just saying, what tools do you have for your transition already in your toolbox? Hopefully by now you've done a lot of research, because it's going to take a lot of research. But it all starts with a plan. And that plan requires some key components, some key personnel that are in your plan to help you have a successful plan. Now, I was talking to Jordana before we started, and I told her that this is not your regular tools in your toolbox kind of brief here. I'm going to cover some areas that often are missed and are not highlighted enough when it comes to transition. And I'm going to step you through 6 different categories of areas you need to focus on, or at least start making some headway on, because you're going to need this type of level of support in transition. Now don't let me just paint a cloudy picture here. This is the afternoon. You probably ate lunch. You're coming back at 4 o'clock. And I don't want you to think that this is all doom and gloom. It is not, but it can be if you're not well prepared for what's about to happen to you within the next, for the rest of your life, actually. So one of the main components of your transition toolbox that most people fail to enact, fail to put into play, is the spouse. Now, let me tell you why I'm bringing this up. You're not the only one going through transition. You have not been the only one that has been going through transition. Whether you just served 4 and you thought it was enough and now you're separating, or whether you retired at whatever stage in your career, your spouse has been there through it all. Now, if your spouse is the same spouse or not, that's irrelevant. Whether you have a great relationship with your spouse or not, that's a totally different symposium summit, and I suggest you go if there's trouble. But what I'm saying is, there is one person in your life that is going through and has gone through transition, and they are there as your anchor. They will provide the level of love that you will not get out here. Okay, let me just be clear. There is no one out here that loves you more than your spouse. You need to help them as well. Now, I love this summit because it has 2 actual branches to the summit. One is for veterans, the other one is for spouse. So if you did not have a registration for your spouse, um, I'm going to say shame on you. But what I will say is that there's still time to have them go through some of these training, some of these modules, some of these speakers that are coming through that will help them also transition. And it's so important to have them by your side through this period, because there's going to be a lot of decisions that need to be made, and you need to consult them. You both need to be on agreement that this transition is not singular, but it is a couple thing. Now, if you happen to be a single person, then it's all on you. But if you do have a spouse, I implore you to get them active in this time in your life, because it's also their time in their life. What are they going to provide? They're going to provide support like they've always have, but it's different. This is where you become conscious that your spouse has also been going through this whole ordeal and will be there with you. Why do you want their support? Because it's going to be heart-centered feedback that they're going to give you. Some may be hard, some may be soft, whatever it may be, it is in your best interest. Now, if you have that type of spouse, good for you. If you have a different type of spouse, like I said, there may be another symposium for you. But short of it all, the spouse my spouse has been the integral person, that piece in my transition that has allowed me to go from good to better to best. And I could not have transitioned the way I have. And believe me, the other day she tells me, I noticed that this has been hard, and I've noticed for the last 5 years. So, just to tell you that sometimes it's hard feedback, sometimes it's tough love, but I know she has my best interest in mind. So I implore you, engage your spouse in this time, because it is crucial that they are involved. Now, earlier on today, you had someone come through and tell you about, actually, she's coming on after me, mentorship. So I'm not going to dive in too much into mentorship because she's got that covered. But I'm going to tell you how I implemented mentorship in my life as I was going through. Now, I mentioned earlier that I am the CEO of Triad Leadership Solutions. That was not an easy thing to do. It's a very scary thing to do. Going into entrepreneurship was not my first go. I mentioned earlier that 5 jobs, 6 years, That was my first go at this transition. But I decided early that I could not do this by myself. And so I have 5 mentors that continue to be my mentors in my company. But I asked them to help me go where they have already gone. They already knew the lay of the land. They already knew, as business owners, what to expect and what to do. And so I enlisted these 5 men in my life to be my mentors through this whole transition. And they actually translated into becoming my advisory team in my company. So if you have those type of people in your life, if you have people that are willing to be your mentors and guide you through this whole period, latch on to them. Make sure that they are people that are in positions where you think you want to be in the future. Okay. And I am so eternally grateful for them. Veterati and American Corporate Partners, I just threw these 2 on there, but there are so many more, and I'm sure Colleen is going to cover this, okay? But I enjoy my time as a Veterati mentor because I get to see this play out at every call. People wanting to find a way without really having to dig for it, right? And these mentorship programs are built to help you, to give you a perspective. So reach out and connect, and mentorship will be covered next. So local veteran organizations, you will be surprised how many local veteran organizations in your city have mentorship programs. Seek those out. And if you're looking to going into business as I did, SCORE is invaluable. You cannot put a price on what SCORE can provide for you if you're going the entrepreneur route. I hope that you were able to download the sheet that goes along with each session so that you can take notes. If not, that PDF will be available in the comment section, in the chat, and you can download that at will, and you can take notes. If not, just grab a piece of paper. So I'm going to leave mentorship there because it will be covered next. Career. Okay, so this is where I get to tell you my story, right? Tomorrow, Chris is going to cover how to optimize your military experience, and then Scott will speak about resumes. But let me tell you my journey after 26 years and being the top enlisted person in my command for my last 3 commands. I separated from the military. I thought it was great. I get to rest. Hey, I golfed for about 4 months straight. I'm not ashamed about it. I really enjoyed it. But then it was time to do something because it just got boring. I'll just tell you that. So an active person like I was decided, hey, let's just try my hand at government service, right? It seems the easier thing to do. I got hired with FEMA immediately. I come from a weather background, emergency management, and disaster preparedness. It's kind of all in that kind of community. So it was easy to transition into FEMA. It was great at first, except that does disaster based, right? So I came in when, frankly, there was just no disasters, and you would think that's a great thing, but not for somebody that's in disaster management and disaster preparedness, because there was just no work for me at that time. So after about 5 to 6 months, I decided there was just no movement in that area, and I could not be that way. So I resigned my appointment there with FEMA and headed back home and said, you know what, let me just try this local sector and see if I can use my background in the military. I had experience as a trainer. I was an instructor for the service schools in the military, and I had all my qualifications. So I said, I saw, lo and behold, they talked about LinkedIn this morning, right? About networking and things like that. Lo and behold, on LinkedIn, I find a job with Sonobi. Sonobi was an ad tech firm, a startup that was looking to fill their instructional technologist role. Now I said, "Oh, teaching. Hey, I applied. Easy done. If you have a full and complete LinkedIn profile, you can just hit apply, and everything will go to their version of a resume and get shot out to companies. That's the good thing about making sure your LinkedIn profile is completely locked down, right? So I apply. They call. They say, "Hey, we would like to interview you." Hey, great, beautiful. Just came out of FEMA. I got an interview already. I think this is going great. So I come in. Hey, they liked what they saw. I was sharply dressed. I came in there. I put my resume on the table, and they pull out my LinkedIn profile. You think LinkedIn is not important? You might want to think again. They did not read my resume. They read my LinkedIn profile. Imagine that. So I'm sitting there, and they call me back for a second interview. In that second interview, I'm feeling great. Call me back twice. It was down to two people. And by the time I got home, I got the phone call that, "Hey, sorry, we went with somebody else." And I said, "You know what? That's fine. I just came off of FEMA, and I was just trying my hand at this." But as I was going to hang up, and I need you to understand that you cannot shortchange your experience and your background in the military. Don't do it. They tell me to hold on and that the CEO wants to speak with me. I said, "Okay, that's strange. Why would a CEO want to speak to me if you didn't hire me?" Well, guess what? During the conversation, they figured out that I was a senior enlisted, that I had done it for three major commands before I left, and they were both Apache and Chinook helicopter pilots, Army veterans. I could not tell. But they were full in civilian and they were going about it, but they saw that I had that experience and they knew that they had a young company, a startup, and they wanted to develop their employees and their teams. And so they asked me if I would consider coming back to speak to them, but in a role as a command sergeant major. That's what they know, right? I'm the command senior. But they knew what command sergeant majors did, and they wanted me to do that for their company. So if you think that these scenarios don't play out, they did for me. Do they play out for everybody? No. But had I just kind of pushed away the veteran thing and just went in there like if I was a civilian with no military background, I would have never got a job. So, CEO tells me the only thing is that we don't even have a job. We don't have a job description. We don't even have a salary. This will be something that we just made up, and but we know we need you. So value your military experience. It will speak to people when you think it's not. And it got me this job as an executive advisor to the CEO for 2 full years. And I enjoyed developing their leaders from the ground up. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had coming out of the military. But what happens is a startup, so you have to also understand that these careers that you go into, you have to know their volatility. How long are they willing to keep you? Hey, when you're a startup, you're run by investors, and investor says, cut some money. Well, cut some money means cut Enrique. And here I go back into the workforce. It wasn't bad. It's just that I had to start again. For everybody that has a degree, I don't know many people that can actually say that they are in the job that they had their degree in. So what do? I apply for somebody for a state job based on my degree, and I got the job first time up. Why? Because they were looking for military person with military experience, but there was also science based and can work in their industry. I got hired by the Department of Environmental Protection for the state of Florida. I thought I was never going to use my degree because it was in natural science and mathematics based off of my MOS, or my specialty in the military. But guess what? I got hired. First person ever to get hired off the street into one of their government positions. I was honored. I was elated. I was just so happy until you get into these situations that you just cannot control. Uh, my manager, my boss, was new as well, and just required too much supervision of me. And so I decided that that was not what I was willing to do. And so I said, well, Enrique, you're going to have to make a decision here. You either want to work for somebody or you want to work for yourself. And I decided that I would work for myself. Now, is that the route for everybody? I don't know. You only know that, and you can only answer that. All I know is that I do leadership development, and I could do that well. I was not able to do it anymore in the corporate sector, so I decided to do it for myself. It has been 2 years. It has been great. I love it. Stress level is nowhere near what it is in corporate, but you may not be in that position. You may have to consider going into a new career in a corporate setting with corporate entities, organizations, and that's okay. You have to choose what is best for you, your family, and your future for your next life, right? But let me tell you something about transition. It does not stop. If you think that transition has a stopping point, as long as you're working, as long as you're providing, transition in life does not stop. I transitioned over 5 organizations in 6 years. They only made me better. So this morning we spoke about perspective, or at least we heard about perspective. It is how you view it. It is how you look at things, whether you will enjoy or not enjoy transition. But one thing I will tell you, you have to choose your career wisely, because sometimes you'll have to decide whether that's going to be where you stay or you're going to have to make another decision. Choose it wisely from the get-go. There's a lot of people in this summit that can help you get there. The next 2, education certifications. I'm not going to cover this in its entirety, but just to tell you that I mentioned earlier, my education facilitated me working for a city job that I was the first to ever be hired for as a veteran. First time they hired someone off the street because of my education. If you have not addressed your education, TA, GI Bill, even the VA provides some level of education, and local organizations provide education. Let me tell you this one thing about the local veteran organizations. When I got out of the military and started looking for a job, there was an organization that was doing VBI, which is Veteran Business Initiative. It was an 8-week cohort with veterans of the local community, and they were introducing them to major corporations here in Orlando. Part of those host companies was a university that was starting out here in Orlando. And they had a MBA program. This is amazing. Shame on me, and I'll tell you why. They offered a full ride to their MBA program for the students of that cohort. All students in that cohort got a full ride to get their MBA. If you think there are no opportunities for education, you're mistaken. The military provides it, post-service provides it, and organizations, if you're looking in the right direction and you're getting in with the right people, right? This morning they covered networking. This was crucial to having this opportunity. I will tell you that because of life's demand, I started but never finished. But I have a 4.0. Kidding aside, if you have opportunity to get your education out of the way, get it done in the military, but you can do it out, and there are opportunities from other organizations that can facilitate that. So take advantage of that opportunity. Certifications, there are so many entities that provide certifications. I just got my certification as a CPO, certified project officer, and there are many more that go from there. But they're there even post-service. If you can get them in service, get them done. Let's talk a little bit about finances, because it's probably one of the hardest things to hit a household and to hit a transitioning member. I'm not going to go through all the financial things other than to tell you your command financial counselors can help you. Now, some people may say, well, I don't want everybody in my business, and that's your right, but you can't get right unless you get help. If you are financially sound and you are prepared in that area, great for you. I applaud you. If you are not, this is the time to get your finances right. At the end of my brief, Jordana is going to put 2 sheets that I have for you. On those sheets, there's a plan for retirement, and there's also all kinds, 9 pages, I believe, or if not 11 pages, full of nothing but resources and tools that are at your disposal for this transition period. Finances, your bank can help you, educate you on how to structure your new pay and your new financial outlook. Do not waste that opportunity. Special assistant, the financial assistant program within the branches can help you create a budget, get truthful with your spending, get truthful with what's coming in and what's going out. Get honest about your outlook, because it is not the same, right? It is not the same. And you'll feel it immediately, right? Unless you have, your little rest period there where you can go out, still be getting paid, and and do the civilian thing, transition. That's the only period. After that, you're going to get a retirement check, or if you're separating, you won't be getting that, right? So finances is really a sensitive thing when you're talking about transition. So I hope that you are reaching out to all financial mentors to get you where you need to be. But this has been, and I'll tell you from my perspective, from my life, my experience, this has been a touch and go thing, especially with all the jobs that I've had and the times in between to try to figure things out. And if there's anything that'll stress your spouse out, it'll be this, and you not having a job, to help support that income that you may or may not be getting from the government. A good thing is to plan the 50-20-30 rule, right? 50 is you put it in the bank. That's 20, or actually 50 is for you to work with, 20 is for the bank, 30 is for you, right? So it is crucial. This piece cannot go without attention. Networking, right? So Brian covered building a resource network. He went through LinkedIn, and I won't go through LinkedIn, but I'll tell you that three of the five jobs that I got were through LinkedIn. Okay, it's important. It's crucial that you use that network, that tool, to your advantage. Networking, local veteran organizations. We have three local veteran organizations here in Orlando that all they do is network. They network with corporate entities. There are programs here locally that are made to introduce you to organizations and companies. So I don't know how the structure is where you are, but I know here in Florida, it has a huge veteran support system, and they look favorably on organizations that do so. If you're looking into entrepreneurship, SCORE, I had mentioned earlier, that's an organization you want to be networking with. And LinkedIn is the easiest way to do that without having to go to these organizations, right? You can look for them by subject, by people, by organization. You can look them by location and get your network built up. Not your numbers built up, your network built up, where you are surrounded by the arena you want to play in, the professionals you want to be surrounded by, and those that are looking to hire someone like you. It's imperative that your LinkedIn profile is solid for that. Okay, so this is what we've covered in the last 40 minutes or so. Your spouse, invaluable resource, and must be the first person on your transition team. They will support you, and they are pivotal. They are the key to your success post-service. Don't forget about the children if you have them and they're old enough, right? Because this affects your children too. Find a mentor. You're gonna get that brief here after me. Your career. This is your opportunity to make your career, to change your career. Obviously, it's going to change, but to pick your career, to pick what you want. Prior to this briefing, I was talking to a mentee, and I was just telling them, pick what's going to make you happy, because you got to do it, rain or shine, right? You're going to have to do it. Education, look into it. If you don't have it, finances, get that locked down. It must not be a hindrance on this side of service. And networking, it's going to mean how far you go. That's what networking is going to be. How far are you going to go? Earlier, I had shared my LinkedIn profile, but if you just look for me, Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, send me this is one of those things about networking that I'm kind of particular about, but for good reason. Send me a detailed message. Send me a tailored message. Hey, I was at the summit. I saw you speak. Can we connect? Simple as that. But it's crucial that you do that, and I'm sure that it was covered earlier. This is my LinkedIn profile if you want to connect with me. And I hope that this brief has been educational for you. I hope that it's provided what you need uh, in this summit, and I hope that you and your transition goes smoothly. I just hope that everything goes well. If not, hey, contact any of us that have been speaking. If we are in your area, we would love to connect with you personally, but seek help, get the help, and have a great transition.
Enrique, thank you so much for joining us. Did you want to answer any questions? Did anybody
Yeah,
have any questions?
yeah. If there's questions, I'll definitely answer them.
Yeah, definitely. If you've got them, throw them in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll be watching those over the next couple minutes. Still got a little bit, and you can always grab Enrique throughout the event. He's been hanging out with us for most of the time. So, and I did throw those 2 downloads into the feed for you.
Oh,
So
great, great. Thank you.
definitely check those out as well. He's provided those for you to review as well.
Now let me take this moment to give credit, right? Because Alfred Dieta is the one that provided that for the veterans on LinkedIn. I just made sure that I had that. But
That's on.
yeah, thank Alfred. But I just make sure to give him credit because he's the one that provided that.
Awesome. We've got one quick question for you. What advice can you provide about leveraging healthcare and entrepreneurship support, if any, from the VA?
Yeah. So healthcare. Well, this is how I set everything up at my house. I go to the VA. My family's on TRICARE, right? And so we pay for that and get that. VA, I just let them pay because something that you may not know prior to going to VA, if you are a combat veteran, the first 5 years of your VA is covered. That means there's no pay. You don't pay for the specialty, this and that, and they give you a full rundown if you're a combat veteran. Now uh, that designation is region based, and now that the drawdown is gone, but you may have already served in a combat zone and have that title, right? So just make sure that if you have been in theater at any given time, that it's annotated in your history, your DD 214, right? To make sure that that combat is annotated. As far as so I don't have any need external to that for medical needs, right? So that's about as far as I can go in terms of answering, because even on my entrepreneurial journey, I'm covered. I think you're muted on your side, but I think it's
I am muted. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
no. So, can you talk about Triad Leadership Solutions? Okay. So, Triad Leadership Solutions. As of right now, it's a one-man show. That's the way entrepreneurship starts. You're the hats, right? Every bit of your hats, you're wearing them. So what happens is that I go and I get hired by companies to come in and basically bring their leadership up and increase their bench to their sustainability. They have a way of making sure that these leaders that I get to work with are the ones that they transition to the next level, but they try to educate them at the beginning. And so all the companies that work with me are heads up on most companies because there's little investment in the first string, just came on board type of leaders. And so that's what I do. In terms of employees, I'm not at that point yet, but as soon as I am, I'll be reaching out to Jordana and getting the word out, because the ultimate goal of Triad is to provide a sustainable employment landing spot for all senior enlisted and senior leadership that come out of the military, to provide this type of leadership development. So that's coming down the road.
All right. Were there any other questions? Let's see. I don't think you answered this part of it. Can you discuss how
Okay.
you got started and those
Yes.
steps after being out of the service a few years?
Okay. So it's funny because entrepreneurship can come by choice or by by necessity. So hopefully it's not by necessity and you're choosing to become an entrepreneur, because you're going to need that type of um, desire to drive you. So it's easy to start, right? You need an idea. You need a problem solving idea. And if you have a problem solving idea, and if you have enough of a interest as far as market is concerned, then you may have something. Not all businesses become huge Facebook corporations, right? Some businesses stay small and they produce small, and the whole trajectory of their business timeline is small. So what I did to start was that I had entered that MBA program. From the MBA program, I said, I'm getting all this education. I'm doing well. And I already mentioned I didn't finish, right? So I have to finish that sooner or later. But that gave me the information that I needed to feel comfortable to say, you know what, you do have the expertise, you do have the necessity. People are needing this, and you have a good network that you can work, because I do consulting, right? That's what I do. A good network to really start and get in with these companies and do something for yourself. It is not for the faint of heart. I will tell you this, okay? It is not. But if you love what I love, what I do. I love seeing people grow. I love seeing them go and mature to the next spot and get to the next spot. So if you love what you do and you have a great idea that will solve some issues, some problems, and you can scale it, right? Because you want to be able to do that, then I say, hey, go for it.
All right. Well, I think that may be it. Looks like you've answered all the questions. Will you be hanging around with us for a little while, maybe in the lounge, or just
Yeah,
throughout the event?
I'll be in the lounge, and then catch the next brief, and then call it a day.
Perfect. Well, Enrique, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your own story and these tools. I really, really appreciate it. So, on behalf of everybody here, thank you so much.
Thank you.